It looks like it did on YouTube. Hello! I'm here! Happy Thursday, you guys. Happy Friday Eve. Even better yet. Because I had her voice on here and I made a huge mistake in explaining that we could just chat, and I forgot she was coming through my desktop sound. Jill's here. Guys, Jill's here.
Oh my god.
So, now I gotta get you on the screen with me.
It's never a dull moment.
All right, I'm just gonna put you on the screen like this for now. Okay, wait a minute. I have to move us around a little bit.
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is exactly why we can't have nice things. I truly, I get my act together, and then, okay. There's Jill.
I was wondering where I was.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I had to move things around and then publish the screen. So, hi guys. We're just hanging out here on my desktop.
And there's a kitty.
Yes, that is my sweet Nancy. I don't know. You sometimes see my cats. I don't know if I've talked much about the cats. We'll have to do a explain the cats one day, because these cats that I have are actually, neither of them are mine. But
Neither of them are yours.
I do feed them. Yes, Nancy that you see here poking her little face out is my husband's cat, and the other demon that shows up occasionally is my son's cat. And cats they're a long story, but the cat distribution system works.
I thought you were gonna say like you stole people's cats.
No, that was the cat before.
Oh.
Thank you for the subscription, my dear. So we've got lots to get to today, but I kind of, I always do my little banter in the beginning. So, what I have, let me see, let me move that up. Oops. I'm trying to resize our, I can't even find my screen now. I'm not even going to try. You guys, it's Thursday. This is live. Anything can happen. As always, you're just going to have to live with our screens looking like this. All right. So I mentioned in, I think, our Tuesday night stream, we riffed a little bit. We mentioned the eagles. We talked about, I think I mentioned this eagle over here, and I'm obsessed with eagles. And a part of that is the bicentennial research I'm doing. So I wanted to show off this book, and it is called Eagle Motifs in America. It's a Schiffer book. It was published not that long ago, I think 2013, which I realize was that 11 years ago? Yeah, 2013. But what's interesting is many people whose names we recognize are in this book. And they basically are, I think for the most part, recreations of quote unquote famous eagle quilts. So I kept trying to get this book. It's not a super expensive book. It's not a particularly rare book, but I did order it off of Abe. It's out of print. And The first 2 times I ordered it, both of the booksellers ended up refunding my money. And of course, they take forever, right? So it's literally been like 2 or 3 months I've been trying to get this book. Finally, third time's a charm. I order it from one of the book retailers. It's actually here in Maryland. I could have gotten it faster if I was able to drive there. In any event, it finally came. I'm so excited. And it has got what I mentioned the other day is not just the big booty eagles and the fluffy butt eagles, but also the spread eagle. So for one moment, let me go back to my big main camera so I can just put this up here. Bets Ramsey, who is our hero. We've never met her in person, but she is an amazing person. She's 101 this year. She is a big part of American quilt studies, and I would call her an art quilter. Yeah, I guess, right? Would you call her an art quilter? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is her version of the eagle.
Of the spread eagle.
That is the spread eagle, and I will also show the one that's, I think it's in the Smithsonian, is like the original. Also, Bobby Finley, who is a name I recognize, but like I can't remember why I recognize it. She's a member of of AQSG, and that's probably where I've seen her name. She also did a version. And so, like, you guys, when I said the other night, it's like their legs are just splayed out there. They look like chicken drumsticks. You could just pluck them off. Making it musings, I think I'm going to blush. That's right, girl. We got big booties and we got a little spread eagle. Okay, so those two I thought were so funny as I'm flipping through her. I'm like, oh my God, Bets made one of my favorite eagles. Now, before I move on and show you guys the original one, I do have to call out this. Look how much it looks like this guy. And I realize that it's not, and for those of you that haven't been able to see the full thing, it looks a lot like this.
That is a big booty eagle.
It is a big booty eagle, and it looks so much like my big booty eagle, except I can tell you it is much better made. And why is that? Because our friend Barb made it. And it was so funny. I was flipping through here and I'm like, well, gosh, I recognize that eagle looks so much like my eagle, And then I'm like, and who told me some things, some possibilities about my eagle? Our friend Barb Garrett. And here she is in this book. And I actually learned, we've known Barb for quite a while, and I learned some things about Barb's accomplishments that she doesn't talk about. And I was like, oh. I love Barb and I respect her very much. And I love and respect her even more because she's so humble. She doesn't talk about her great work and the things she does. So anyway, I'm jazzed about eagles today.
They want to see Barb's photo.
Yeah. Let me hold it up again. This is the Pennsylvania eagle. And I think the other day I want to say it was I think it was Dana's auction. I don't think it was the Meander Virginia gun auction. I think it was Dana's. There was a version of this quilt, but it's the 4 eagles, and they're they're in the corners. And I think that's what where Barb was going with this one. And it's entirely possible that there is a version that has it looks like a giant match, or sometimes they say a cigar, or they say a firecracker. When I was bidding on this guy, they were saying it was a doobie. I was like, rock on, eagle. But anyway, so my obsession with eagles continues. So if you're interested in this book, Eagle Motifs in America, Decade Art Quilt Series 1770 to the Present. And it is a Schiffer book. And I want to say I paid like $10 for it. It's, it's one of these great books. It's got great pictures, wonderful information, and probably not enough people know about it or buy it. So that. All right. Real quick. This is also one of my favorite books, All Flags Flying. I've had this one for quite some time. And the reason why I pulled this one out the other day is because I know there's bicentennial quilts in it. I'm not going to show those off because, of course, I will do another bicentennial show later. But here we go. Here is the Smithsonian eagle. And this is the spread eagleness where I'm like, Eagle, what are you up to? So that's the original. And it's it just says applique blue and white, cotton print. It's made by Susan Strong Bell in circa 1835. Possibly Maryland, possibly Ohio. She's originally from Maryland, but after she got married, she moved to Ohio. So they're not sure if, she did it before she got married or if she did it after she went to Ohio. So anyway, that's the spread eagle that I'm obsessed with. And then this book, I just have to mention, The Big Book of Applique Quilts by Virginia Avery. Virginia Avery is somebody that growing up, I heard her name a lot because my mom followed her. My mom, read the things that she wrote. I don't remember my mom having this book, but, this book was published like in 78, I think. So I thought it would have some bicentennial quilts. Indeed, it does. It has bicentennial banners too. And it's got lots of cool stuff in here. I mean, for a book that is technically about how to applique, it's got some heavy hitting quilts in it. You might recognize this one. Prosperity is around the corner. One of my favorite quilts. And often, and I don't mean to disparage, how-to books these days, but I feel like how-to books will often have like maybe one or two, historic quilts in it or, for reference, but they often don't have this kind of information that you see in these older books. And, it's a shame because they're not in color. And I feel like if these books had, they have some color plates in the middle, there's some stuff in here, but for the most part, the book's not in color. And, we don't have so much of that anymore. So that is that for today. Let me bring Jill back.
I feel like, did we unknowingly coordinate our outfits today? Because we're both wearing a gray sweatshirt and an AQSG shirt.
I know. It's pretty funny, when Mary Kay was on our quilt nerding stream, I think she was wearing the exact same AQSG shirt you were. And I try to wear my quilty shirts when I'm streaming. But yeah, it is a sweat sweater. It's a sweat sweater season now. I've been begging for it.
Sweater?
Sweat sweater, yes. That is something I got from my mother-in-law. I don't know why. But when it's a zip-up hoodie, she always called it a sweat sweater.
Because you sweat in it? Or it's like a cross between a sweatshirt and a sweater?
Cross between a sweatshirt and a sweater. And sweat cardigan sounds weird.
Okay. I got it.
I haven't said hi to anybody in the chat. Oh my gosh, Runbird Nerd. Hey, I am so glad to hear that you survived both hurricanes. I was thinking about you, not so much with Helene, because I feel like Helene was wild. Didn't do what we thought it would, but I definitely thought about you with Milton. I think Milton's the one that's sneaking up the coast. So I'm glad that you're okay. And our dear friend making amusings. Tomorrow Dim, my dear. Druid, as always. I think that's everybody who's been chatty so far. So because we're co-streaming, I have got a whole lot of software up. So, the best place to be in Florida. Yeah. Oh no, your son was in Asheville? I didn't know that. Well, I'm glad that he is able to stay with you. And I hope everything's okay as it pertains to his living situation. And it'll probably take a little, it's taken time for Asheville. I don't want to be too much of a bummer, but Asheville is on my mind. I don't necessarily I think I have like one friend that kind of lives in that area. I don't know a whole lot of people at this point in my life. And,
I got family in Asheville.
Oh, yeah. They're doing okay?
They're safe, but their roads have been washed out, so
yeah,
they're having to have supplies and things flown in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Appalachia on the mind, exactly, Druid. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I said, I think I don't know, it was last week or maybe Monday. It's devastating. It's always devastating when these things happen. It is all the more devastating when you're in an area that is not used to this. I think about when we started really having tornadoes here on the East Coast. Like, I don't remember tornadoes being a thing when I was a kid, and now they are. Yep. And, hey, climate change. but I just remember being so scared and like, what do I do? You know, we don't have tornado sirens like they do in the Midwest. So yeah, it's scary. And when you see that destruction, it's like, ugh. Exactly. Who expects a hurricane to wipe out part of Appalachia? It doesn't make sense. You know, hurricanes are a coastal thing. And, you know, we're used to hurricanes. Does it make them any less devastating? No, but you're used to it. Like, and I feel like the floods and things that we have experienced, we've had two 100-year floods back to back. I think it was 2016 and 2018, right where my husband works. And I think I mentioned this the other day, and it takes a while. FEMA comes in, they do their thing, they pull cars out of the river, all that stuff. But they usually kind of get it up and going pretty fast, and because we've had this happen many, many times. But Asheville, not. You know, I would say Asheville's probably struggled with things like snow and, you know, things like that. So anyway, I just continue to think about people and worry about them and hope everybody's okay. Yeah. So let's get to some fun stuff. What, are you going to share your screen? Is that how we're going to do this?
Am I rocking and rolling here?
Yeah.
Okay. Because now not only can I see all the things on my screen, I can see all the things on your screen. So I'm not sure which things belong to me, which things belong to you.
Oh, so the picture, the video of you belongs to you.
All right. Well, the first thing I just want to show is our calendar, because I wasn't sure if you had shared it on your stuff yet, but I had shared it on the quilt nerding stuff because we had changed a couple of things. Obviously, one of them being today that we're dual streaming. But then the other thing that we had added is when we go away to Pennsylvania to see our friend Barb Garrett and some other things, we're going to try to do a stream from our rental house, assuming the Wi-Fi is stable enough, because there's an unboxing we want to do, which is something I won at the live auction at seminar, called Box Under the Bed, and it has all kinds of ephemera and stuff in it. I have not cheated. I have not looked at it. They literally handed it to me off the stage. Steph came over. I went, look, I got the thing. And I closed the box. I have not looked at it. So Steph is going to bring her overhead camera, and we are hoping to look at that. Probably pictures of things from our travels while we're there and whatnot. And then also to remind everybody, like, if you want to come over to the Quilt Nerding stream on Wednesday the 16th is when we're doing our needlework nights. And we're going to do tape measures. If you haven't taken any pictures of your stuff, you need to do that.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yep.
You know, I'm looking at the calendar. I remember thinking, like, around my birthday back in September, I was like, oh man, I've got some stuff that's like I got to do by the end of October, but I got a month and a week. Now I'm going, oh poop. I have 2 months, 2 weeks and not quite a third week, but part of that I'm going to be away. So I've got a lot of work to do between now and Halloween.
Okay, the box under the bed thing we're going to try to do on Sunday the 20th when we're together in Pennsylvania.
And we have a time, right? At 7 p.m. Yeah.
Yep, 7 p.m. And that's in Eastern, because I figured we'll need the day to, do things. Because the other thing we do when we're in Pennsylvania is we go shopping. And well, we don't necessarily buy things, but we see a lot.
Yes. And this trip is also quilt turning and multiple museums. So it's not just... I really don't have the the spoons for shopping right now. The spoons full of money.
No, but it's just like there's great things,
wonderful things to look at.
Yeah, it's a great way to get like content. I will say that. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say the other reason I put up these calendar stuff is to remind you of what's going on in your life. Okay.
Jill has taken on this. She's been voluntold. She's like my keeper.
Okay. Okay. What am I doing here? And this one. There we go. Look at that. So, Kate, I didn't know you were here. This might be semi-boring for you because you've literally seen like all the things that I'm about to show. But what we're looking at here is an unboxing of a large amount of sewing tool related things that I purchased from our friend Karen Redinger. Business-wise, she just goes by Redingers, and she vends at the Sturbridge Show, which is a textile show that kicks off Brimfield Week in Massachusetts, which is a massive antique show. She had gotten a bunch of stuff that she was setting aside for me, and I made her very happy that day. So I'll put a link to her social media in the description on our quilt nerding site when we're done. But some things I got from her, and then a couple of extra things like this basket I did get from her. But where is my
And hi to Kate, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't say hi to you. You popped in after I did the did the roll call. But I mean, there's some funny stuff that happened here, right? Where you're there at Sturbridge, and Karen's got things for you, and weren't you just sitting down in a corner?
Oh, okay. So yes, so I knew ahead of time that she was bringing things specifically for me, and I show up to her booth, and Kate also met up with me there because she wanted to um, experience Brimfield for herself before she went on to seminar. So her and I hung out, which was super fun. And so I go over to Karen's booth and I'm like, all right, I'm here. And she's like, okay, I've got a box. And she like pulls out this box. Not only that, but I had to obviously go through other things that she had in her booth because like you have to, especially her famous bins
Yeah, Karen's
that
got good stuff.
Stephanie and I. Yeah. So I'm like thinking to myself, where am I gonna go with this box? Like we're in a ballroom, like where am I gonna go with this box? And she's like, you know what? Because they have kind of some chairs around the edge of the perimeter of the room for, husbands and whoever to sit in. She's like, why don't you go sit in that chair? And she's like, and I'll get you another chair. So I'm sitting in the chair. I have another chair with the box on it, and I'm going through things one by one. I think there's only like 5 things I gave back to her that I didn't end up getting, which Kate then went through. I don't remember, Kate, if you got anything from the box that I didn't end up getting. But anyhow, so yeah, and then when I gave her back the box of things I wanted, then I had to leave her and come back because I needed to give her time to write up the slip
Oh,
for
yeah,
it
that's right.
because it would have taken forever. And she's got, other people she's got to, service in the meantime. So Kate and I were futzing around. I also was hanging out quite a bit with our friend Jane Lurie, who's a quilt dealer, who also vends at that show. So I went and Kate and I babysat her booth when she had to make, like a bathroom run and all kinds of stuff. So we hung out at that show the longest I've ever hung out at that show. It was probably at least a good 2 hours before we left and got lunch. But
Oh my god,
anyhow,
it was only 2 hours.
it it could have been longer. I don't even remember. Kate, do you remember? It could have been 3. I don't know. It was a while because I got there before Kate got there, and then she needed the time to, look at stuff. There weren't as many vendors at the September show as there are in the May show, because they hold this show May, July, and September. May's the biggest show. July is kind of dead. I did go to July this year, and then September's good, but it's just a little bit smaller. So there weren't as many people that had things I was interested in. There's a lot of clothing there. There is another tools vendor there. I don't take any pictures in her booth or anything because I don't know her personally.
Right.
Kate says she was there 2 hours
And
and
hundreds of
and
dollars.
hundreds of dollars. Yes, she did get some things. It's a good show. I highly
Yeah.
recommend people go if you want to come and find. And I keep trying to talk Stephanie into going.
I've
Maybe next
resisted.
year. Maybe next year. But this basket we're looking at here, I did get at that show, just not at Karen's booth. It was another vendor's booth, and it was so cute that I like just couldn't. Let me.
There we
There we
go.
go.
There we go.
It was so darling that I could not resist it. Like it's so sweet.
It is, and the inside of it is really pretty. It's like a boudoir sort of thing.
Well, that and like I feel like the way it's shaped with like the handles, it reminds me of one of those like really fancy footstools that has the needlework on them that's like
Oh
curved
yeah,
at the end.
yeah.
Yeah. So I got that, and I also got this little guy at a different booth. He's one of our, super interesting. Everyone loves them. The made in Japan.
Yeah.
Um, I
And I think
I
wait,
don't
they're kind of like a luster, like what do they call that? It's like a lusterware kind of thing. The when you see that finish on like dishes, like dish sets and stuff, is it lusterware?
maybe. I mean, I have always just grown up calling it a ceramic, but I'm sure the finish is called something else.
Yeah, it's
I had bought some because I bought quite a few made in Japan items recently. I did buy a couple of books on on it. I just haven't looked through it. I will say though, one thing that's not showing up on the camera is this particular guy. The finish on it, it almost has an iridescence to it.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's that
Um,
iridescent finish is
you
it's
can
like a
tell that
pearl.
from this picture. I can't.
Just because I've seen these, I know.
Me.
I mean, come on, let me be a little bit more than an adult
Miss
about this stuff.
Fancy Pants.
But yes, it's like almost like a pearlescent kind of.
Oh, yes, that pearlescent. I like, yeah.
Yeah, and I may be using the wrong word. It may not. Maybe one of you guys knows the correct term. But there's some really pretty like dishware that also has that, and I think it also might be might have a Japanese origin potentially. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Anyway, he's cute.
Okay, so now we go into
This,
the parents.
oh, this, I love this.
Yeah, so this is like a handbag slash sewing bag. It's what it's a silk, right? When it's I'm always thrown by that harder feeling.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it's not like a dupioni, but it's like a very firm, thin silk. Taffeta, I guess, is what it probably.
oh, okay, that would make sense to me.
Ah, word
Um,
and bird nerd. Thank you. It's the correct term. A metallic finish that makes it look iridescent. Yeah. So it's yeah, lusterware.
so the cool thing about this bag is that shell we're looking on the front, which is big. It's a good size shell. It's a pink keep. And it's so big and heavy that the purse falls over.
Yeah. When you showed it to me, I was like, "Oh my god, it's like a newborn baby. I don't want to touch it."
Yeah, it's in like really good shape. Like there's only like a little bit. Maybe let's see about that last photo. This let me see. So like right here, see where it's all connected to the purse. On this side over here, it's just pulled off a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I feel like
otherwise,
I remember that. I mean, yeah, it's sturdy, it's in good condition, but it's also one of those things you're like, somebody made this because like
yeah.
no factories were pumping out stuff with seashells on it for the most part. Um, but yeah, I was so afraid. I was like, oh my god, somebody made this with their hands and treasured it, and I'm afraid to like open it
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, it feels.
Yeah, I had kept it's poofed up because it's got paper inside, which I did keep in it for the photos just to keep it poofed up. There's nothing inside. There's no pockets or anything like that, so I just kept it in there so you guys could see, but that, the all the gathering here, everything is good. Like I don't think any of the fabric had any ripped stitches. I actually that's the one thing I don't have next to me right now. Because someone had recently asked to see it in person for potential purchase. They did not purchase it. It is still in my inventory along with most everything else we're going to look at.
Yeah.
Um,
This bag, like I feel like, and I'm trying to remember where we read about this. It might have been in Dawn's book.
yeah.
That there are these little sewing bags and things. I mean, they were useful, to put things in, like tools and things or whatever, your project, whatever. But they're so pretty. They're not just utilitarian. They're meant to like, oh, look, I can afford to have this, beautiful little silk bag with my sewing in it, and I'm going to display it when I'm not sewing. That was kind of their
Yeah.
purpose too, right?
Yeah. I believe in her book she calls them to like reticules. But you can see that the hand stitching right here because you were saying like having it homemade. Word and Bird says it almost looks like an ice bag
Yes,
that kind of put on your head. I mean, it's definitely not big enough for that. I can tell you that.
it does have a look about it like that when you first glance at it.
Now this is a collection,
Yeah.
um, which I do have right here. I didn't take it out for the purpose of pictures, but I can show you now. And
And
this box is one of those really good ones where the top is glass. It's not
yeah,
plastic.
yeah, this is what do they put like I don't know. I feel like these boxes are for like specimens like
You see a lot of arrowheads in boxes like these.
yeah, things like
Things like
that.
that.
But you know when you described these to me, like I kind of I understood the little pin cushion or the little shoe thing, you know, because
Hmm.
we've seen things like that. And then the little bag made sense to me, the little scissor sheath, but I could not wrap my head around the situation with this umbrella until
Yeah.
I literally got my hands on it.
So, well, this umbrella is very interesting because
See
the
if I can
actual
make you bigger.
it's a crochet hook
Uh huh.
that's making, what is the center of an umbrella called?
Uh, the stem, the handle, I don't know.
Sure. We'll go with that. I know someone in there knows. This is another object that is obviously handmade. Um,
I love the fact that it's a crochet hook, right? I mean, like
mhm.
who? I mean, it's smart, it's clever.
I'm sorry, I'm just gently opening this so I'm not pulling on things too. The part that closes everything up is woven through the whole inside. And then you open it all up and it's all pins inside.
That is so cute. And I mean, look at those itty bitty little those little loops are like where you make a loop and you do a buttonhole stitch around them to make them. You know, it's a garment technique. You know, to make a little hook and eye sort of thing. But they've done it to make the little to thread the stuff through.
It almost looks like it's like like a tatted loop.
Yeah, it's like a it's a bar tack, I think is what they call it. But yeah, it's yeah, you have to do that little knotting buttonhole knotting around it.
And then on this like silk on the outside, they've also done like really pretty stitching in between
To
the
make the folds
panels.
of the umbrella. Yeah,
Hmm. Yep, and then they wove that lace or lace
the ribbon.
yes through, and then they pull it tight to close it up again, and then obviously probably tie it in a bow like to the stem.
It is so charming. And you know, I wonder if is this is something that, you know, was it possibly published in like Needlework magazine or
Oh, it was like a pattern.
yeah, something like that or like, you know, here's an idea or I mean, was this something that this person, the maker just was like saw something and said, "Oh, I can make, you know, an umbrella like that." And yeah, I mean, like, where did the ideas come from? It's just, it's so charming and clever. And I keep
It
thinking, like,
is.
I have a ton of those bone crochet hooks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there sometimes you can find some that are very finely wrought, and you know, they're very pretty and they might be like worth a little bit more money. But for the most part, those things are like a dime a dozen. And so I was just kind of thinking, like, that might be a little craft to try to make.
And then this other little sewing set that came with it. It's a hand painted silk. Here's the little snips
Mm-hmm.
that are inside. Then, ooh, then this little ball thing here, you got an emery.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a cute little bag here. And I mean, it's little, like here's my hand, you know. It's probably holding like needle packets or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then this little pincushion shoe. And like
So
this
precious.
this is little and it's just like cardboard on the back. It's not anything that's gonna hold up to much.
Yeah, and this so that part of that little collection strikes me as something that was like tourist trade somewhere in Asia.
Oh,
Um,
I mean it has a an
did,
Asian inspired
did it have a little? Okay, that
um,
little coin.
yeah.
Yeah. Kate is asking, is this one staying in your collection or is this one for sale?
The
These items.
I don't think they're gonna stay in my collection. No, I don't. I feel like I probably took out anything um that was planning to stay. Sorry, I'm just gotta stick these needles back in here, or I never will.
Yeah.
And then I'll find them everywhere. Luckily, they go in easily. I will say the one thing I am definitely keeping is this box.
Oh yeah, that is a nice box. Those are, yeah. I mean, this will cost you
They're
a little bit of
expensive
money.
because the glass, yeah.
Well,
Um,
do they? I mean, I'm sure not to say do they even make them anymore. Of course they do, but I feel like you can buy those with like a cellophane or a vinyl kind of thing on them that maybe are cheaper.
well, you can buy them where the covering is like acrylic.
Yeah, like plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't, I mean, that's fine, but I don't necessarily like it so much.
Oh, so Kate says, I read somewhere that sailors would make bone sewing tools for the women in their life during downtime on ships. Yes, I've heard that as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
And I've seen some cool stuff. Like, I know there's one, and I'm trying to think it. Somebody like Dawn or somebody we know owns it, but it's like it's a busk, so you know it's very old because
Hmm.
because I would say they stopped putting busks in corsets and bodices while back, but it's like a carved, I don't know, it might be whale ivory, I don't know, but yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes,
those
I know what you're talking
those
about.
little lover sort of, sailor valentine kind of projects.
Hmm.
Yeah.
This piece here is you got a pin keep on the side there, and then it holds needles when you open up the flap. How cute is that? This is another obviously handmade because you can see
All the
all
itty
the
bitty
stitching
little
in
hand
there.
stitches. Yeah.
Yeah, I even love like how they like held down, like they made this like extra little flap
Mm-hmm.
to like hold down the pieces of what do you think that is, like wool?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those pieces are wool.
Yeah. But then like all this cute little stitching around here, and then on the outside there is velvet.
I love that lavender fabric. That's so pretty. I mean, you could picture a
Mhm.
dress made out of that. It'd be very.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because the outside is pretty plain, and it's that on the back too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the this looks like it's had pretty minimal wear because the velvet on the pin keep side, it's definitely like a would it be called a ribbon, a velvet ribbon, or would it be called
Yes,
like a
I think
quilt?
because yeah, I do remember looking at that one, and it is. It's got the edges of it have that kind of finish to them like a ribbon.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it's a
that's what
very
they use to
narrow.
sew it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very narrow
It's
velvet
got
ribbon.
very, very minimal wear.
Hmm.
And I find that, a lot of times with these, the velvet often is what can wear first because if you're someone like me, you've got to feel it all the time.
You rub the velvet off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. I knew a kid in middle school that would do that to her corduroys. I was like, you've got a anxiety issue.
yeah, I just like the furry, like I just want to play with the furry.
I understand.
And now there are two of these, not the same kind or the same color or anything,
Yeah, it's
but
like the Velveteen Rabbit. Yeah. You love the Velveteen Rabbit so much, and then it becomes threadbare.
so this is a painted, excuse me, silk scissor sheath. And like I said, there's two different ones. Sometimes I hate how these fabrics show up on camera. They can be obnoxious. Um, but these were really, again, handmade, little bit of wear here, but very interesting. I haven't come across these like in good condition like at all. So far in my journeys. I also
Yeah.
like the scissors that were in it.
Yeah, they weren't familiar to me. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like quite like that. Modern stuff, yeah,
Hmm.
but not something like that.
I'm not sure if I took a picture of the next one right after. I did. This one, is this one silk too? Yeah, this one's silk too. It almost looks like a leather in
Yeah, that's
this.
what I was gonna say. I remember that, and I did get to see these at this was at seminar, right? When I saw these,
Yeah.
um, yeah, when you pulled them out, I was like, oh, they look like leather, but they're definitely silk.
Druid, I have never sharpened my scissors
On a
at all.
glass. Oh, I've never heard of that. Tell us more about this. Is this some of that Appalachian lore that I missed from my grandmother? I know my grandmother used to cut up used aluminum foil. Give the scissors a
Yeah,
little
that's the only
sharpening.
one. That's the only one really that I've heard. I don't when I get these, I generally don't do much of anything to like the tools that come with it unless they're like really dirty. Like that mother of pearl hand stiletto that I
Yeah.
have. I'm pretty sure I showed you a
Mm-hmm.
before and after picture. Like that thing
It
was
was grimy.
so dirty. I cleaned that. Like I like with like it's and it was tiny, like you because you had like the little fingers you had to get in between. Like I cleaned that with like a toothpick and yeah, that cleaned up very well. So then we've got this piece, which is a silk roll. Oh, my box of treasures because there were so many things. Funny story. Right after I bought all these, right, I have this big bag of all this stuff, and they carry and packages them up in cellophane.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got all these things, and Kate and I go to lunch after we leave the show, and she's like, "I really want to see all the stuff that she got." So I bring the bag into lunch, and we order our food. And while we're waiting for it to come, I'm like, "That's when I'll show her all this stuff." So we probably have, only like 15 minutes or so. So she's like looking at stuff and she's like, "Can I open this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I just keep like pulling stuff out and pulling stuff out. And there's this big pile on the table. And I'm like, "Come on, girl, we got to keep it going. Like, look alive here. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go." The food's gonna come. And I didn't want all this stuff on the table. And people are kind of walking by like, "What are they doing? Like, what's all this stuff on the table?" But yeah, so one of the things we didn't necessarily get to look at, and open up and anything as a group is this sewing roll. Ooh, which these are super fun.
Yeah,
But
they always yes. Okay, I remember this now. Yeah, I
mhm,
remember opening this up.
yep,
It's a pretty little thing.
yeah, they're long. And then the way that this helps you save your thread too, because you weave your thread. See, you've got
Mm-hmm.
the needles on the end here.
And this is the kind of thing I need to do because I'm kind of doing some production sewing. Like it's English paper piecing, so it's like the same thing over and over and over again. And so I thread several needles at a time, but then inevitably on my table somehow they get all tangled up as because I'm like just sticking the needles in. I need one of these so I can thread my needles, put them through there. Probably
Yeah,
not weave them through like that, but have them stretched out in a safe place. And
yeah,
yeah, I have more than two of them going on at the same time.
yeah,
Druid just said about sharpening needle or sharpening scissors. I saw it somewhere and tried it and it worked. You just scissor them around a glass or a jar and it sharpens them. I will have to try this on some of my less expensive scissors. I have the big dressmaker scissors. I'm not going to try that, but
yeah. That's
um,
very interesting. I have not heard that anywhere.
yeah. Uh, I keep thinking that scissor sharpening is something that and I think it's regional. I think some people have like a scissor guy in their
Yep,
town,
yep.
but I feel like there's a desert in other places, or there's nobody who can sharpen scissors. I know Joanne Fabrics used to always have the guy who would come around like twice a year.
Yeah.
I think at least the one that came to my Joanne was so unreliable, and people were like, "Yeah, he messed up my scissors." But I'm kind of like, if you have the correct equipment, it's really hard to mess up scissor sharpening. The average person, it's something that they would not invest in or learn how to do, but it's actually not that difficult. So I keep telling my husband, like, here is a great retirement job for you. And he's like, I don't
Yeah.
want to sharpen scissors.
Well, and the only person now that I know that sharpens scissors is there's a shop nearby that does once a month they do a machine maintenance day where they have like a
Mm-hmm.
guy come in
Yeah.
and do generalized maintenance on your machine and he'll also sharpen scissors.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Rob should also do some, machine maintenance.
I've been working on him with that too, but yeah.
Here is another scissor sheath. This one's much larger than those other two that we were looking at. And this one's hard.
This
There's
one
there's
also, I
not
think,
as
is
many.
very pretty.
Mm-hmm. And then this is perforated paper. It's a what do I got there?
That's a little book too, right?
Yeah, it's a needle book. I've got another picture of it.
So
It's in the box of goodies.
these things always shock me when I see them because that's paper.
Hmm.
Making it in the first place, I feel like, is an, if you're not careful, if you're not, just very patient, you can rip those whole. I mean, I realize the paper has some body to it. It's not like it's not like tissue paper, but still, I think it'd be very
Hmm.
easy to like sort of pop, the space between the holes and rip it.
Hmm.
But the fact that not only that, it has lasted this long, and not just crumbled because,
I don't know if that one has, let me see if that one has a date on it.
yeah.
I'm not.
So Jared, I have one of those little tools too. It's like a little thing with a angled bar in the middle, and you kind of just scissor at it.
Yeah, so
Hairdressers,
this,
yes. Hairdressers, I do know they are people who do regularly need scissors. And my grandfather was a barber, and I think he sharpened his own stuff. But hairdressers definitely, like, you need a sharp scissor to do hair. And their scissors are very expensive.
hmm
So, yeah.
Yeah, this one, she has a date on it of 1860s. Here's the inside of it, and it's funny, in this picture it kind of looks small. Here it is with my hand. Like it's a good size.
Hmm. For some reason, I don't know why I'm not remembering this, but I'm 100% sure I saw everything that you bought.
Oh no, you saw everything. Uh, you might not remember because you were looking at this at the same time that you were looking at my
It's something.
stash of Mocklin.
What was it? Oh, the
Mocklin?
Mocklin. Yes.
Yeah.
When I was going like,
Yeah, when you were doing your little mine. And then this is very interesting. It's a pin keep, but it's like a celluloid, so it's
hmm,
hard. And I've never seen one like this where the holes are pre-drilled. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure they exist. I just haven't come across them yet. Um, and it's very ooh, what are we doing there?
yeah. This one was really interesting to me because I had never seen anything like that, and I feel
Mhm.
like celluloid stuff is another thing that doesn't like it just does not have the longevity because it's so thin and it's so
Mhm.
very easy to like just crush it. And I do remember kind of giving that a little bounce test with my fingers, and it's kind of you could feel how thin that celluloid, pre-plastic, whatever you want to call it, is.
Yeah, and the other side here is a
That's right, it's
mirror,
a mirror.
which would seem very weird, but we have since discovered why you often see mirrors
I feel
in
like a
sewing
complete
stuff.
idiot, and in case anybody did not hear our I don't know how long ago this was. Like I think it was probably when we were talking to Dawn about her book.
Probably.
My major, like epiphany. Oh my God, they didn't have mirrors in their sewing kits just because they like to look at it themselves. It's to reflect light. Because when you're sewing by candlelight or gas sconces, you need something to multiply the light. So that's why there are
Mhm.
mirrors and reflective surfaces associated with sewing things. It's not because these needleworkers were like, oh, let me see like how my hair look.
I mean, I thought the same thing of like, because you see a lot of sewing tools boxed together with
Manicure,
personal,
yes,
yeah,
manicure and
personal tools.
body implements, yes.
Yeah, like bodkins
Hmm.
and the shoe button hooks
Yes. Yep.
and things like that. So to me, didn't it didn't seem unlikely that there might also be a mirror to tidy up your hair or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I thought about this kind of stuff. I think the epiphany was really like the little boxes, the fancy sewing boxes and it's like these are clearly made for sewing stuff, not for,
Mhm.
because some of those little etuis and stuff, you're right. It's, there'll be like manicure scissors and, other stuff that's kind of can go either way. But and I think I was like, why would they put these mirrors on, like on these things? And I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like such a dummy.
Well, and now that we've seen, because I have quite a few of those Tui's, like the ladies' companions,
Hmm.
and it not only is there a mirror, but there's a mirror that comes out that's made for you to fold in a certain way that props it to sit up.
Hmm.
So it to me now it makes a lot more sense considering that we're not necessarily dealing at a time when makeup was really a thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that it makes a lot of sense now as to why. Anywho, anywho, or we'll be here forever.
I know. I don't think
Um,
I'm going to get to reading much today, but
hey, you know what? Some of it I blame you because you had to talk about big booty eagles first.
yes, but
Um,
eagles were important today.
So if you remember when we had done our quilt nerding needlework nights, we
Hmm.
had done a night with stilettos and awls and things like that. And when we were, it when we were in the Penberg show, I had bought a number of really
Yes.
pretty stilettos from
Yep.
Karen. I think yeah. So that was in the end of May, beginning of July. And of course she had more.
Of course.
So I had to get this one that was also just like absolutely stunning.
Hmm.
Like to do work this small, because when you think about like a stiletto being, 3 inches and under,
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
So those those little handles would have been done with lost wax casting, and they're probably coming out of a mold. But nonetheless, it's not like these things are factory made at this
no,
point.
no, no. And then here we have another little pin disc that's again, it's homemade. The bottom is ooh, a red velvet, and then you put the little pins in the side, and then the inside feels like a cardboard kind of a thing, just meant to be something that you whip up. Like, I don't have a place to put my pins. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Here's a place to put my pins.
Yeah, these kind of things I used to look at and be like, meh, like it's not interesting looking, whatever. But there is definitely a story in that. Even
Oh
if it's
yeah.
just as simple as I need a place to put my pins.
hmm
you know.
Here's another one. I really liked this is a really pretty brown. I really like the fabric on here. It's funny. They're a great way to like use up like that one little scrap that you just don't know what you're gonna do with. I also imagine these being like a training tool,
Hmm.
before you get to the really fancy sampler when you're 5, like maybe when you're 2.5, you make one of these.
In between potty training and learning to walk, you need to
Yeah,
make yourself a pin keep and a
yeah,
scissor sheath so you can be ready for that first sampler you're going to have to crank out before you go to kindergarten.
yeah,
And then it's off to the factory. So get going, child.
yeah. This one was interesting because the back, they had put a bunch of stuff through the back like this, which I have not seen before. So it's like they've made the inside here for just pins and then this for their actual needles. And then you can tell again that this is handmade because like, oop, look at the stitching here
Yeah. Yeah.
is on the cruder side.
And I love that fabric. I just love
Hmm
stars and eagles. You think yeah, I mean, I guess I'm patriotic or something. I don't know. I've always loved stars. I think stars are just, they're a little bit more interesting polka dot.
Yeah, and then here's the side of it. This to me, when you see this kind of stitching where it's very clearly homemade,
Hmm. You
Becky
kind of
made
wonder
it on
what
a
their
Friday.
actual sewing looked like.
Well, for me, this is kind of along the lines of like weird quilts,
Hmm.
or like when we see like they made like a totally screwed up block, and we're like, oh my God, that's so cool. This is the equivalent for me in a sewing tool.
Yeah, I think one of the big reality things is not everybody loves sewing. Not
Mhm.
everybody, has this love of little tiny, hand wrought things, but pre sewing machine, you didn't have a choice. Whether you liked
No.
sewing or were good at it, you still had to mend stuff.
Well, and that's why now we have so many variations. This is another needle book of like this one's much more elaborate. Like, even on their page, this is one of the pages sticking out. And then all this stuff on the top. I love this one.
Yeah, and
It
if I
was very
remember, I want to say I kind of felt those beads, and I think those are like steel cut beads. I don't think they were
could
glass. They
be.
could be. They could have been glass with like a finish on them, but I think they were like little steel beads.
Yeah, and here's the inside. Do all that like pretty little needlework. Oh,
This also strikes me as one of those needlework magazine or Weldon's or something.
mm,
This
yeah,
very,
maybe.
yeah.
Here's another one.
This
This
one I
one,
like. Yeah.
yeah, this one is a suede, which
Yeah.
I've never had a suede, and it's also a good size. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes needle books can be really small. Um, and this one had, just very slight prettiness on the inside. Nothing super fancy, but effective.
Mm-hmm.
This I had to buy because it was weird.
The weird hand.
Yeah. It's meant to be like a little pinky.
Uh-huh.
And one of the reasons I got this is because I'm sure on one of my other unboxings in the last year, I showed a leg
Yes, the
that I
leg.
had got. Yeah, that look it's like that leg looks like it was like a leg from a burlesque show, like
Yes.
an 1800s burlesque show. So yeah, so now I tend to notice the body part pincushion things more often. And when I
Who
saw
knew
this,
that sewing was going to get so racy?
yeah, when I saw this one, I was like, that's weird. But the other reason I got it is because there's an inscription.
Oh, yes.
And I really like stuff that has inscriptions and stuff on it. And this one, it even has like the date. Let's see, the Heart of America. What was that, like 13? Is it like an E?
I thought it was BC. I
Oh,
don't know.
BC. Okay, there you go. It looked like a 13 for a second.
Yeah.
Um,
Welcomes you to Kansas City, Missouri.
Florence
Leggett.
Leggett.
1961. I
Yeah,
think the
isn't that cute?
I think the little fingernails are so cute. They're red sequins, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it doesn't even have an opposable thumb.
Just a big flappy flipper.
Yeah, like there's 5 fingers, but it's just a hand that does
What's the
this.
pinky? What's the thumb? We don't know. That's okay.
Yeah, I love just like weird stuff like that. So then there's this.
Yes, and this one I in my fervor over eagle coverlets and other things, I completely forgot that I had staked my claim on this.
This is a leather Sue that of course I picked out because of Stephanie. This was in the big box. You guys could only see my setup over here. So yeah, this is significantly
Yeah,
big.
she's big.
And I know you've seen like some other ones that we've got, we found places that are really common. Like there's like a velvet, felt, like a little
Hmm.
felt one that you often see. Um, this one is interesting too. It just opens like this. It doesn't do anything fancy, but I think, let's see, did I get a picture? Yes. They like drew the details on, which
Hmm.
I thought were interesting. Like that's her hand. See, like her arm comes down like this.
Hmm.
Here's her waist,
Yeah, and it's like
and her
she's
arm
got like
comes
a
down
little
like this.
frill at the
Yeah,
yeah.
and then she's like wearing just like a glove.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and
So
this
I'm,
to me, like, I have so many questions. I think your average home sewer may not have, like, their sewing machine may or may not have been able to stitch through leather. I mean, some old sewing machines are like workhorses. You can probably stitch
oh yeah, like
through.
a Singer 301.
You can stitch through stainless steel with those things, but this one, I mean, this I remember the stitching around the edge looks very even and
Yes,
like
on
it was a
here.
leather stitching machine. So I kind of
Yeah.
almost wonder, like, if somebody that maybe a shoe repair,
Oh
shoemaker
yeah,
kind
shoot.
of, yeah, some kind of leather worker that
Well,
might have
actually,
made
when
this.
you think about it, like maybe someone making shoes had
Hmm.
leftovers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
'Cause
I
even
mean that.
even these are leather, these flowers.
Yeah, like the bond, it almost gives you like it's almost like the tongue of a shoe folded in half. I'm not saying that's
Um,
what it is, but I mean you could, in theory, see that.
so I'm sorry, did you say you peed on this one?
I'm pretty sure I did, but
Yeah. Okay.
bring it
I'll
with
make sure
you.
that doesn't go back into the generic box.
If anybody else wants it, we can fight to the death for it. It's okay.
This was just a cute little sewing set. That's all velvet. Yes, of course, I was like, oh, it's so velvety and like
Always ask Jill if you want to buy any velvet items from Jill. Always ask how much velvet have you rubbed off, and how much of a discount am I getting for that reason?
it's funny. Half of me feels like if I find because the thing is that like velvet today doesn't feel the same
No, it doesn't.
and it doesn't feel anywhere near as good. So I feel like I need to find an old piece of velvet and just like, put it on a piece of cardboard or something and just leave it as my desk as like a fidget spinner,
Yeah, yeah,
so
just a
I
little
can just like,
comfort. Yeah,
yeah, I can just like run this weird track of like finger line down this velvet. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So we've got a needle book here. Just, again, this is clearly handmade. You look at this bottom here, it's not the fanciest item, just the practicing. Oh, I only got two shots of that, huh? So this is just a pin cushion. This is an emery,
Emery.
and then
Okay,
this
I
is
couldn't remember if that was an Emery.
yeah. Usually, if you see something tiny like that, it's likely going to be an emery, and
It's
then
an
this is
Emery.
just another scissor sheath, which is interesting because that scissor sheath looks to be the same like pattern as this one.
Huh.
Yeah, it's the same
Interesting.
exact shape. So, like you said, because this one also is very obvious. Well, I didn't take pictures of the side of this one, but also again, very clearly, quickly handmade. Um, so yeah, it makes you wonder about those patterns. But one thing Stephanie and I have been doing is when we find them really cheap or free or whatever, we've been collecting antique publications because of all the ads and
Yeah.
things in them
And I'm
for
also interested in kind of nailing down, like, as we look at some of this stuff, yes, the ads, but also the patterns. Or, like, where did some of these ideas come from? And
Mhm.
there's the little Sunbonnet Sue, the smaller needle book one that I have like 3 or 4 versions of. I'm still looking to see where that's from. I know it's from some magazine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Little Corticelli spool silk. Uh
Advertising ruler.
yeah, words. Um
And this is tinier than the ones we were looking, because I want to say like
yeah,
when we did the collectible versions of these, they were mostly about 6 inches, right?
this one's fun. Yeah,
Mm.
4.5. Yeah. And this one's not wood. This one's
Oh, that heavy
like a
pressed
thick
paper.
cardboard.
Yeah, it's like a Bristol or oak tag, or no, it's heavier than that.
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess I would just describe it as like a thick cardboard at this point. I'm sure there's a more official word for it than that. Um, and then it had stuff here on the back. It's the best.
No Tuck Sill Company, Florence, Massachusetts.
Yep, that mill is still around. It's not like working, but it's the building's still there. So much mill history in Massachusetts.
Really? Yeah.
Now this is very interesting.
Yeah, I remember this. I was like, oh, what is this? And then I was like, oh.
Yeah, this is a big emery that just has a leather piece on like the top and the bottom, and then you can see with this piece right here, it's just on 4 sides put together. It reminds me of like a cannonball.
Yes. It has some odd vibes to it.
Yeah, it's very like not super interesting, not super like ornate or anything, but I got it because it says Sarah.
Yeah, that it was so charming. And this strikes me as something that's either like I feel like it was made for Sarah. And it's not
Um,
particularly pretty,
mhm.
but it's yeah, it's so charming. Oh,
Well, and
so
I wonder, like, it could have been like attached to something else at some point
yeah,
or
possibly.
part of a
Yeah.
thing. Kate just said, I think Dawn is coming to Berkeley soon. I'll have to try to go to her show. Kate, she is.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
going to Lacey's. They're like, I guess one of the things she's doing there, I don't know if it's part of a program she's doing a
mhm.
tour of Lacey's. And I'm like, oh my God, if I could get out there for that. Because Lacey's is like one of those places where I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool. Lace Museum, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
she's doing like a trunk show. I feel like she's doing a lecture. She might even be doing like a kind of a class thing with one of her new roles there.
Yeah. So get on
But yeah,
that,
she's
Kate.
doing a lot of things over there.
Yeah, get on that and report back.
Yeah, I feel like if you wanted to go to something like you need to sign up for it because I know her stuff fills up. So like,
Yeah.
but if you do go, let us know
Yeah.
because that'll be really cool because I don't like I've never been to California because every time I'm like, God, that flight's so long.
Well, you try to break it up and fly to Chicago. And
I would, yeah, maybe puddle jumping's my way to go. Then I got this little cutie.
this one's very pretty. Yeah, this
Just a
reminds me of
little
quilts I
needlework
love.
pincushion. This one actually made me think of Anne when I got it because she has a collection of those.
Yeah.
Here is a little baby tape measure, and I'll have to remember that for next week when we're looking at tape measures. Because it was just the cutest thing with these little two kitties on it. Then I've got a bone bodkin here. I just liked the pattern.
Hmm.
Why are words so hard?
It's Thursday. It's Friday Eve. That's always my excuse. Well, it's Friday Eve. And then on Mondays, it's like, it's Monday. Come on.
Mhm.
Yes,
Here
this is the
is
other one. Yes, this is the other
hmm
one.
yeah, perforated paper. This one actually, has its date on it and is more filled out than the other one. The
Hmm.
other one had wear on it and just I feel like maybe it just hadn't been completed necessarily. I'm not sure, but and then that one had around the edge here, it had a more finished edge. It had that like it's tape, right? Isn't it called a tape when they
I,
put that like stuff on the edge?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. There's the inside because this one's just held together with some ribbon
Piece
on
of
each one.
ribbon,
The other
yeah.
one had like an actual join.
Hmm.
I really like this fabric. Here's another needlebook that I think is the cutest thing. Does this one have a date on it? No, it does not.
She's kind of got a turn of the century vibe.
Sure. Very, very Little Women.
Hmm. Very
And then you
cute.
open her up and she's got some wear right here, but otherwise she's in pretty good shape. I love this little like needle pack here. And the fact that it even just says, I mean, that looks like it's probably done by hand, that writing.
Yeah, and yes, I definitely thought that, and I'm trying to remember what I thought about the portrait of the woman. If that was looked like it had been stamped, like printed, or if that had been like a drawing.
Nope, that looks like it's drawn by hand.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, this could have been like, made by somebody that just had a talent for drawing as well, or maybe it was made by a loved one who was
Well,
good at
what's
drawing.
funny is we sit here and we talk about all this sewing and things that was taught at a young age. A lot of people, especially girls and men of prestige, higher class, they were taught to draw.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're never taught to draw anymore.
Well, I went to art school, but I still can't
Here
draw.
is another perforated
Yes, that's
paper.
right. There were a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, see, this one has an actual join
Hmm.
going all the way. But then again, it doesn't have the one thing I have mixed feelings about when they do an edged, like a finish on the edge. Where was that other one? Where did it go?
Well, my guess is that I mean, it's
Oh,
about like putting some strength in the thing.
yes. So I have like when it's not doesn't have an edge finish like this one. It's it's very pretty. Um, but I've had a number of these pieces. Um, and it does feel rather fragile.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing I do really like about an edge finish is, you can't get stuck.
Right. You can't just like whoops
Uh,
tear the edge.
yeah. Um and and you would need that because see that they on this one they used that tape
Mm-hmm.
to then sew the join.
Right. Yeah.
Where you'd think it would be easy to just sew the join between the holes on either side. Um, but you need something to add a little bit of space in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this one looks very polished and pretty and everything, but like, I feel like it just makes it that much more fragile. And the way they've done this joint is very interesting. Like, I guess that's a piece of,
Yeah, that's woven tape, right? I think.
sorry for the crinkling. That is,
Oh, those tiny little cross stitches, you know.
it actually feels like a piece of velvet
Huh.
been worn away.
Yeah, I can see that now.
Yeah, because it's kind of like they wrapped it around the tube because you can see right here where it folds.
Mm-hmm.
I look at how close we can get. I love zooming. It's
Yes.
so great.
The
The one
ability to take
thing,
nice clear pictures and zoom in on them online, it's a beautiful thing.
well, especially considering like I just took these with my phone. The one thing that you like never see is their work on the back because they cover it,
Right.
with a fabric.
Well, I mean, and that's for stability too. I mean, it's not
Sure,
just
sure,
about
sure.
covering it up, but yeah. So I don't know if I'm not a cross stitcher, although I've done some small pieces. You know, sometimes with embroidering, I do some cross stitch. I'm one of the people who do not do cross stitch like in, you know, like that. I'm like a let me, in one hole and out the other, all in one stitch. You cannot do that with that paper stuff. You got to go
Hmm.
in and pull it through, and then back up and pull it through.
And I just noticed because I moved those wool pieces, there's also a little cutout picture in here of a doggy.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember noticing that. I
No,
don't.
because I've never moved it's underneath what we're looking at. It's
Mm-hmm.
underneath this spot right here, and I had never moved it.
Oh, the things you find.
Yep, the things that you find. That's true. And then this is just a cute little needle pack. But I was like, that's the sweetest little thing. I feel
Yeah.
like we still, as sewers and quilters and things like that, have a lot of gadgets out there
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of cool things that you can get. But I don't know, there's a part of me that feels like the stuff they had before was way cooler than stuff we have now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's more charming. It's
Well, you
sturdier.
were definitely far more encouraged to make them than you are now.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, things with babies and children on them, I just feel like are also just kind of extra charming. I don't know, for whatever reason, babies. Also, it's a reminder that, here, baby, this is your 10 minutes of childhood before we put you to work.
At that time, that's for sure. This is a teeny tiny thread winder
Hmm.
that I was trying to grasp, it's very dark. The kind of like the finish? No, that's what I
Well,
want.
is it
The
tortoise
pattern?
shell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got those like kind of striations and sort of
Hmm.
what's the word? It's almost not well, kind of translucency a little bit. That you would see in tortoiseshell or horn.
Hmm. And then
This
this,
is stunning. This is so
yeah,
pretty.
this is a tatted needle book. As far as I know, too, all of this came out of the same collection. Yeah, so it's the same on the front as it is on the back. So I didn't take both. But then again, what's on the inside here is like a thick cardboard.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming this probably would have had to have been a pattern, a little like kit, because this is pretty well polished.
Hmm.
Um, with the inside, and then even the treatment on the edge here, which I did not take a photo of there, but see that edge
Hmm.
finish? I think there's I remember this one being one of Kate's favorites when I was throwing them at her across the kitchen table.
I think I remember you saying that, and I was like, oh, Kate and I might have to fight over this.
Yeah, that was one of the stunners in there. Then we got another little Japan kitty because,
I
what's
think
anything gonna be?
this
What's
is a
that, a Japan?
dog.
Is it a dog?
Yeah, it's kind of got like
Yeah,
corgi
I guess the
qualities.
ears. I guess now that I'm looking at it, I guess maybe it's kind of like a French bull kind of a scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, it's got sort of short legs. I was thinking corgi, but
Yeah, what's interesting too is this one, you know how the made in Japan stamp is on the bottom of his foot, not on the belly like it usually would be.
oh,
Yeah. This
this is so cute.
is a pin cushion made, this right here is all very, very fine silk. It feels like butter. But yeah, this whole body here is a pincushion. One of those probably like tourist attraction kind of a thing, but a nicer one.
Hmm.
I've definitely had these for sale before because I think they're really cute and charming. They're always different. Um, this one's one of those little mending kits,
So precious.
isn't it? And then a pin, oh my God, puzzle ball.
Yeah, I love this one. This one's cool.
So oftentimes you see these and they're soft.
Yeah, this one
This
has weight.
one,
Yeah, this one's stiff and has weight to it. So it's
yeah,
got
which
cardboard. But it
these
also
ones are
wasn't it
rare.
kind of have a little bit of weight to it? Or am I
Yep,
yeah.
yep, because these hard ones are the ones that are more difficult to find.
Hmm. And I any idea what it's stuffed with? Like wool or sawdust or
Maybe sawdust. Yeah, the poofiness feels like it could be a sawdust. Yeah, I would probably have to um commiserate with some of our friends about what they're traditionally stuffed with. And then this was just a cute little pin cushion, but probably one of those ones you buy that you don't intend to use because
hmm.
it also has a thing where you could potentially hang it.
I remember this one, but I don't think I looked at. Could you go back to it? I don't think I looked at it in very much detail, but I think
Hmm.
those are ribbons, right? It's ribbon. Yeah, it's ribbon
Hmm.
that's been stretched across, and then there's this kind of chunky stitching. Like it's sort of a needle point, but it's with pearl cotton.
Hmm.
That's cool. That's clever. I like that.
Yeah, probably another
Yeah,
pattern in
it's
a
yeah,
magazine.
it's got a Weldon's vibe to it.
Hmm. And then this one's very interesting. I'll just show you the back first, and then we'll come back. Just, yeah, some velvet here, and then some, probably like a thicker like dress fabric or something like that. And then it's got all these sayings on it, like,
My question is, what was this person going through that they needed to put this on their pincushion?
yeah, well, you got take all my guilt away.
Exactly.
Now hear me while I pray. Savior divine, thou lamb of cavalry. My faith looks up to thee. Let's see. Oh, let me from this day be wholly thine.
Yeah, so it's either well, I mean, it is a very religious person, obviously, that put this together. But
Hmm.
I mean, is it just their favorite sayings or prayers or whatever? It's just a very interesting choice of things, and I thought that the stitching was really interesting too because it's like
Couching, like,
yeah, well, it's not couching. I think what they've done is they've done kind of a rough stitch of the letters, and then they've gone back in and done it's like a stem stitch kind of.
but they like went around the rough stitch, right?
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Or it's
Hmm.
just a really controlled like stem stitch, very tiny. Oh, Marjam's saying hymn titles. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
And then it's got this like tinsely,
Yes, it's like that old
wiry,
German tinsel. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like wrapped around the edge of it. It's very interesting, which is another reason why I couldn't leave it in the box.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question is like, was it made for like some type of Sunday school, I don't know, church group thing, or was it just like I gotta make a pincushion and I'm gonna stitch some religious and hymn titles? Actually, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where that's often the kind of questions that I get so hung up on is like,
Yeah.
what were you doing when you made
Yeah.
this? Did you stitch those letters by reflected candlelight on your like little mirror? I think about stuff like that or fantasize about it, should I say. This is just a cutie. It's just a little, not very big, just a little cute, hand painted little pedestal pincushion. And I was like, that's darling.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It's pretty cute.
This,
Oh, I forgot about this.
oh, see, I'm so glad that this is like new again for you.
Yeah, it is because we looked at it early. I want to say it was like the second night we were there, maybe, or was it the first? No, it wasn't the first night.
Who knows? Who knows? Because apparently we were there for 5 nights. Do you think like it was 5 nights that we were at
Oh,
Summoner?
in some ways it feels like it was one night. In other ways, it feels like it was like 45 days stomping around the desert. Like it was.
Well, I do remember when I checked in and she was like, "Oh, you're here for 5 nights." I'm like, "I am? All right." Like I'm wow, is this really that long? Like, okay.
Yeah, it
Um
is. Yeah.
and so it's funny. This thing reminds me of, remember that scene from Titanic where Jack is showing Rose his drawings and he's got them in this folio, just this plain folio flap thing. That's what this reminds me of. Um, this just very simple. Now, obviously, this isn't simple, but if you're just looking at the flap itself, it's just like a sack, like a burlap kind of feeling to it. It's just feels like a cardboard. It's not anything harder than that. It seems pretty crude based on how we're looking at this thing, it's probably primitive would be
Mm-hmm.
a better word. And then it's got this, rug hook kind of scenario.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's
Uh,
a very fine punch needle, if I
mm-hmm.
remember correctly. Um,
Yeah. And then you open it up and it's, oh, which way is, I guess it doesn't really matter which way is down here, but it's this like little sewing kit inside. This right here is a pin cushion. Um, this is a pocket where the opening is right here. This is another pocket where the opening is right here. And then this is a piece of lace that somebody was working on. They have it pinned to the top here,
mm-hmm.
and then they've been working on it. And then here's some thread that they had tied in to the case.
Yeah, this one really confounded me because it it almost strikes me as something that's not from the United States, But then again, it also has that primitive, like,
Hmm.
you know, I don't know. I really didn't know what to make of it. Because it is so, it does kind of have that, like, I mean, not to say that it's sloppy, but it is like very primitive, like very spare.
Hmm.
But you do have this amazing piece of lace, handmade lace, and
Hmm.
then that front piece with the peacock. I don't. I mean, I know we have that very fine punch needle. Our tambour work. I mean, I know we have that now. But did they have that very fine punch needle back then? I don't know. And when I say back then, when is back then? Like, what era is this?
I have no information.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely made like an old fashioned punch needle rug or hooked rug,
Hmm.
but it's so fine and small,
Hmm.
comparatively compared to a rug.
No, and I found it incredibly and interesting.
Yeah.
These are
The
three little
waxers.
waxers, which you don't see often, and they're all in really good shape. I feel like the only one that looks at all maybe used is this one here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know for sure, but like part of me wonders if this one here could be like a reproduction. I'm not sure.
Mm.
I don't come across waxers very often.
I know. And that's why when I saw those, I meant to circle back because I was very interested in those. So bring those with
I feel like you meant to circle back on a lot of the stuff that
you.
was
Well,
in here.
after 5 nights.
Well, and again, I had mentioned the story about looking at these with Kate, and I'm like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. It was pretty fast with you too, because I feel like we went to the room to look at them at like, I don't know, 9 o'clock or
Yeah, it
something,
was pretty late in the evening when
and
you.
we were mushy,
Mm-hmm.
from the day. So, it was basically like, yeah, look, but like I'm so tired. This piece is very interesting. It's a big,
Are the
hefty needle
waxers dried
case.
out? Are they usable? I don't think I ever took them out of the bag. You had them in a bag, so I don't know.
Um, the outside would definitely be on the drier side. Could they be usable? Probably. I don't see any reason that they wouldn't be. Would I use them? I probably wouldn't use them.
I wouldn't. They're worth.
Yeah, just because of the rareness.
They're
But there
rare.
are
They're
some
worth
people,
something.
but there are people that buy to use,
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this needle case here, this is a hefty one.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes they're relatively small, but like this is
Yeah, you could clonk somebody with that. Yeah, whack.
yeah, I mean like you could hold it and be like, "Ugh." I just love all the wood carving. That kind of stuff just makes me happy.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, it's definitely skilled work to make something like that.
Hmm. I feel like Dawn's husband should make something like this because he will do some of the restoration for her on sewing boxes and things when there needs to be some wood stuff done. And it's like, come
Hmm.
on, get to it, make something like this.
Yeah, she shared some of that restoration info with us, and I feel like
Hmm.
is that something else that's in our arsenal of stuff we haven't even processed. Um, but yeah, I mean, he's got some skills. Very interesting to me.
Then I got two little Japan shoes
Oh, little shoes.
because I could not get them. And
Those are
often
very
I
cute.
feel like, we had talked about like, did they ever come in pairs? And never noticed pairs ever until our friend Karen running her had a whole bunch of pairs with her.
Hmm.
And then we're like, well, look at that. And then this is something I bought for my personal collection from Nancy Hahn
Hmm.
while we were at seminar. This
Wasn't
Art
this
Nouveau.
actually your significant other bought you this as an anniversary gift?
Yes,
Yeah.
somebody bought this for me. Yeah, that's like very like pretty like Art Nouveau type dish that
Hmm.
holds, your spools and stuff. And then I would assume maybe a little pin cushion would go in here.
Hmm. It's really cute and charming, and it's heavy. It's heavy
Yes, it is
too.
to me.
Yeah.
And then this is a shell pin cushion that also was from Nancy Hahn that I just found so interesting. Um,
Yeah,
And
I
they,
love these, and I feel like the ones you typically see are just two halves
hmm,
with, you know,
with something in the middle. Hmm.
and with the thing in the middle. And this one was very interesting because it's the four.
Hmm.
You don't see that very often.
Nope. And you had to find them that look very similar.
Yeah, they either need to be the same halves of the. Well, yeah, they're the two halves of those two shells, and they need to be the same
Hmm.
size, similar in size.
Yeah. So those last two there, those stay in my collection. I'm sorry if you love them, but they were gifts. And that is the end of my shebang there.
That was fun. Those are good things.
Yes.
All good things.
Yes. I'm hoping you enjoyed them.
Wow. So that leaves us with not much time for me to do any reading. So I think I'm not going to read today.
Oh, you're not gonna read.
But that gives us time to just do a little chit chat, right?
Sure.
Um, all right, now I got to figure out how to get us back on the screen with just us. Bear
You can
with
do
me.
it. I have faith.
I know I can do it. It's just a matter of scooching us around.
Getting us back with baby kitty.
Speaking of, I don't know if anybody noticed, but there was a little kitty here for a while. He was on the back of my chair.
I definitely did not notice. I had things on my screen where I couldn't be looking at you.
Yeah, yeah. He was hanging out. He was enjoying. I don't think so. I mean, he was laying on the back of the chair looking for ways to knock my wall down.
Oh, well, that's not very nice.
Yeah. So, why don't we whet our friend's appetite for a few of the things that we've got just having ideas about, and like maybe you guys have some ideas about things we could do. We've sort of been enjoying doing these dual streaming things. It's sometimes fun to have another person to talk to and not just be, you know, talking to the void. I mean, of course the chat, you guys are there. Of course we know we're talking to you, but yeah, sometimes to be able to have that, conversation back and forth is fun. So we've been thinking about things, and yeah, so we've got some museum stuff planned, right?
I'm backed up with museum stuff at this point
Well,
because
gosh darn it, when you work in a museum.
well, it's not just that. We have not shown any of the museum footage that I have from the Darien,
Mm-hmm.
and this was when we were at seminar, the Fairfield while we were at seminar, or Rockland County when we were at seminar. I
Mm-hmm.
have footage from three of those.
We're getting ready to get probably two more.
Well,
museum.
I got footage from an exhibit at the museum yesterday that's going to come down while we're gone. There's another exhibit in there of antique political quilts. Another exhibit's going to go up while we're in Pennsylvania. Um, I feel like I could be sitting on something else as well. I just don't remember off the top of my head. So I've already got a backlog. Then we're going to go to Pennsylvania and we're going to go to the Westchester, I think it's the Westchester Historical Society or something.
Mm-hmm.
They have an exhibit of signature quilts. And then we're going to go to the Mennonite Life Museum, which is one of the museums mentioned in Anne's book on patchwork pillowcases.
Yes.
And we're going to go see that. And Anne is going to come with us, as well as our friend Barb. So there's going to be that. Then there's going to be any other content we grab while we're out there. Like, because there is an exhibit, isn't there, at the Schwenkfelder, other than
Mm-hmm.
Barb's
Quilt turning.
quilt
Yes, the
turning.
Schwenkfelder usually has some type of small quilt exhibit. I know last year they had Nancy Rowan's quilts,
Mhm.
and then I know both of the Penn Dry Goods shows that I've been to, they've had some small international quilt exhibit
Mhm.
downstairs. So I'd be surprised if there's not something. So we'll
No, I'm
get
pretty
some.
sure there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Then,
Maybe we need to have like a museum marathon
Oh, like for like a week or something?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Just do museum stuff for, I don't know, 4 hour stream. I
I'd
don't know.
have to sleep for a week after that because as much as I love museums and I love looking at stuff, it makes me so tired because it's like overload.
It is. It is. It's like a cognitive overload because you're trying to process what you're seeing, and usually it's
Hmm.
just the eye candy, and then often museums are going to have like a historical component or a social, for things that are newer. You have like kind of a social aspect of it that sociological. That's the word I'm looking for. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot to process with museum stuff.
You
Sure.
know, this is probably like $1 million idea, but I feel like museums, especially the big, big ones, um, they should have nap pods you can rent. Imagine
Like
how
that,
much time
those
you
things
could
they have at
save.
Google because they make you work like 18 hours a day and you can go take a
Or
nap.
things, there are these things at like airports in like Japan
Mm-hmm.
and train stations. You can rent this like nap pod. Um, because man, the first thing I do when I walk into the Museum of Fine Arts is I want to take a nap. That's the very first thing I want to do because like I'm preparing, like I know I'm going to be exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, imagine how much money you could make because people would hang out a long time. There's also places in the MFA where I just want to hang out,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm too tired. So
Yeah,
I leave.
I've noticed. I mean, I've been to a lot of museums in the last couple years. Primarily for quilts, but also for other reasons. And I have noticed that, I mean, there's certain exhibits that they specifically curate to have seating areas, like not maybe
Mhm.
like kicking back and being totally comfortable, but some type of seating area, a comfortable chair or a bench or something that you can kind of sit and rest and contemplate. And but yeah, I hear you. I love consuming content, whatever it is, from the comfort of my couch. So if there was like a big comfy couch that I could just lay down on in a museum and just like you know and read the exhibit book while I'm laying there, that would be pretty sweet.
That reminds me. So when we were at the Newark Museum of Art at seminar, we were talking about this because as we were walking through just the generalized galleries, there were a few galleries where they had legit couches.
Mm, yes. Yep.
And
Hmm.
then I remember being like, well, it's awesome. Because I will say, and again, I'm just going to keep saying the MFA because that's my closest big institutionalized museum. They have their like a place they call like the Hall of the Great Masters,
Hmm.
which are those massive paintings
Yeah.
where the ceilings are like 50 feet high and they have them just like stacked all the way up. And in order to look at the ones up high that are very large, you have to stand there like this.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a big, big open room. They have benches that just go down the middle of the room. I have commented more than once. I wish they had those big like ottomans, like big, big ottomans
Yeah.
that people could lay down on.
Uh-huh.
Because
Or
in order to comfortably really look at such a painting, I would need to be laying down.
or
Because
recliners.
otherwise, yeah, otherwise I'm gonna get nauseous. Just like,
Like, have you been to one of the movie theaters that essentially has a recliner? There are recliner chairs
yeah,
now.
yep.
Yeah, that's what they need in our museum, so you can really take it all in.
I feel like if you walked in that great hall though and you had a bunch of lazy boy recliners, all you'd hear is the different sounds of snoring.
Yeah, probably.
And it would like echo. Maybe that's why they don't do it. Because I'm just picturing back when Barnes and Noble used to have those really big, comfy, oversized chairs,
Uh huh.
and you see the old guys in there with the book like this, and they took their shoes off and they're just like snoring.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Yes, I do know that I always saw people in those chairs. I don't know that I necessarily saw anybody sleeping. I do know I saw people like
Oh,
that would read magazines cover to cover and then put them back. Like, had no intention of buying them, but came to sit there for 4 hours and read the magazine.
no, there was always a guy that you'd see sleeping. I've noticed now in my Barnes and Noble, they have seating still, not as much, and it's not comfy.
Yeah, my Barnes and Noble moved to a much smaller location, and there's not
Mhm.
seating. Yeah.
But yeah, there's that. Then we were talking about maybe like talking to quilt historians as like a
Hmm.
panel.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, would people find that interesting if we kind of talked to historians about like tell us about your experience and getting into this
Hmm.
and things, I guess what's the word I want? Like trials and tribulations.
Yeah, I feel like we've heard some stories. I mean, I know Mary Kay told us how, you know, she came upon the first quilt that was just like, I must have this
Mhm.
quilt. I don't know anything about quilts. I don't didn't have quilts growing up, but I must have this quilt. And then that led her in there. But I feel like that's kind of like the tip of the iceberg of the story. Like, tell us about how you took that leap to say like, I'm gonna start writing. I'm gonna I want to research this and do more.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I know we both talked about the fact that, we know quite a few people that are doing some really amazing research, but they're also academics.
Mhm.
And that can be very, I guess, intimidating for people that are so interested in history and, maybe want to dip their toe into it. Maybe you're not interested in necessarily publishing or, running study centers and quilt studies and stuff like that. But to be able to say like I'm a hobby historian,
Yep.
or I'm a part-time historian, and I think people are afraid to take that on sometimes. I know. I told you I still have that imposter syndrome because I don't have a PhD and I'm not working on one, and I have no intent of working on one.
I can
So,
guarantee you though that there's PhDs that still have the imposter syndrome too.
well, exactly, yes. Um, but just that from that perspective, that I think that history in general, not just quilts, but history in general, if you have the drive to immerse yourself in it and seek out, and ask questions and doing good research means that you're not just going to land on the first answer and run with it. You know, you have to have, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, multiple first, primary source collaboration, like all that kind of stuff, and that can be very daunting. And, how do you do that? How do you even get involved? And I know you and I kind of have a place in the AQSG material culture discussion. You and I do have a place in there for a thing we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think even now I have so many questions for people that have come before us, and like, what do you do when you're up against that kind of, everybody around me works in academia, I don't. How do I have anything important to say?
Mhm.
Like, that's that imposter kind of stuff.
Well, and then there's even once you get past some of that, or not even get past it, you just decide to big fat do it anyway.
That's pretty much
Um,
what I did.
yeah. But then there's the logistics of it, right? Like
Hmm.
how do
Hmm.
you big fat do it anyway? Do you just walk up to the Baltimore Museum of Art and be like, "Hi, I'm gonna look at all your stuff," or
No,
like
you don't.
so like talking to people about that kind of stuff. Like what's the actual protocol
Hmm.
for trying to get in to see these things and do these things? And I know like for everybody that came from Mary's streams,
Hmm.
she talked a little bit about some of the difficulties in doing that, especially if you don't have a degree and you're not coming from an institution.
Hmm. And
But
also, you have a day job. I mean, I think a lot of
yeah,
people have that problem too.
yeah.
How do you devote yourself to endless hours of research when you have the priority of a job, a career, and possibly family that you have to take care of, and all that stuff? Like, how do you do these things? And yeah.
Yeah, so we were thinking about kind of a panel that talks with the well-seasoned
Hmm.
quilt historians that have been around, have done things, and they had, in some instances, they had to do some things that were much harder because they didn't have the internet and things like newspapers.com or the Ancestry and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then talking with, emerging historians on especially emerging historians who aren't getting um, graduate degrees
Hmm.
on kind
Yeah.
of. I guess like what generally I guess what they would have been called would have been like an armchair historian.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of navigating some of that and special issues you would come
Mm-hmm.
across with
Well, yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, armchair historian, I think, is a perfect description for it. Although it's almost like, well, that makes me feel bad about myself because I'm just I'm not a professional. I'm just an amateur. That's the way that feels. And
But it's funny. I guess there would be a discussion about kind of what around the word professional.
mm-hmm.
Because I feel like to a certain extent, some of what separates those two is one person is roundabout getting paid to do that research and
Yeah,
someone else is not.
that's what I was gonna say. Like, do you only become the professional when somebody pays you to do it? Or
Mhm.
pays you for the outcome. And I have given paid presentations of my research and also honorariums. But the point being, I have been paid for my research, and the outcome of my research. So does that make me a professional? I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it's also the question too of the one thing that someone like yourself has going for them that let's say um someone with a PhD. And it's not just having a PhD. You have to have a PhD and you have to be tied to a university because just having a PhD, you're not going to get paid. If you got to be like a professor somewhere that's sponsoring kind of your research, you have the problem then of called publish or perish.
Mm-hmm.
The only
Yeah.
way you gain traction in your career and become, you go from like an associate professor to an assistant professor to a full professor, publishing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that you do that.
Yeah.
That's how you get tenure. That's how so
You're going to be
you
passed
don't.
up. You're going to be passed by if you don't constantly
Yeah,
publish.
and
Yeah.
then someone like yourself that doesn't have that, you don't have all that red tape and all that pressure.
Exactly. And that's a beautiful
So,
thing too.
yeah.
Because what I was saying is like I have done two separate topics the past 2 years. I mean, I'm never going to stop researching those two topics, but I'm moving on to something else that I think might be bigger, and
Hmm.
I'm probably not going to do anything next year. I mean, if somebody wants to pay me to lecture my two previous lectures, absolutely.
You mean like in terms of like study centers or
Let me
something?
take your money. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
guilds. I have done, some lectures for a number of guilds now, and I love that. That's so much fun. I mean, that's talking to your people about the thing that you're both interested in. So yeah, I absolutely always will continue to do that and seek it out. But like 2025 is not going to be a year when I'm going to be like, I don't think I'm going to necessarily submit a study center. Susie, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to be ready. The current research is not going to be ready by then. The current research, I think I probably mentioned this a little bit, but not much. I mean, I really do feel like there could be, at the very least, an academic paper coming out of it.
Hmm.
So,
That would maybe be a good contender then for at seminar to do a poster session just about what's percolating, because then
sure.
that's how you get people to give you
Yeah, and in fact, I think
sources
that
they have.
might be what I will do if I do anything at seminar beyond being a attendee and a helper, to do a poster presentation just to kind of get people like reel them in because I've been
Mhm.
throwing it out there. Here's what I'm working on, bicentennial, and I keep getting that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. That's or
Mhm.
really. So, I want to get it out there to the people that are interested in chiming in and interested in telling me stuff and showing me stuff and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, that publish or perish, not a problem for me.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But on the flip side of that, from the perspective of, I have to make decisions about how I spend my time because I do have to pick up freelance work. I mean, I'm very lucky that I right now don't have a 9 to 5 job. Um, I have the commitment of doing these streams,
Mhm.
and yeah, there's just, it's a mixed bag. It really is. And I think it's just a fascinating thing. And, for all of us to talk about. And, I don't know if our friends out there and the lurkers, if that's something you guys are interested in, or if you think of something else. I mean, what would be a great panel to have? Like if we had, 3 or 4 people on who would be willing to chat about stuff.
Mhm.
What are the topics that are most interesting right now?
Yeah, because we for the at least for the quilt nerding side of things, we have decided that the book that we are starting right now, the To Honor and Comfort, the native quilting traditions. That's going to be our last book for the year. It's going to take us about 6 weeks. So that's going to take us into the second half of November. And then we just decided we're not going to do another book for the rest of the year. We're going to do other stuff. And, some of these quilt exhibits that are burning a hole in my computer hard drive.
Yeah.
And and the other thing we were maybe gonna do a sew along for December, just like how Steph did the Dawn Mary Witherwax sew along. We were talking about doing one with some Anne Hermes patterns, and a thing percolating in my brain was maybe a stream that talks about quilts that dealers have for sale right now, kind of just like a spotlight of, these quilts and these quilts, because we had a couple of people the last stream that we did about an auction review where we were looking at, a Virginia Gunn recent auction of her stuff and a Dana Balsamo auction. A couple of people had commented like, wow, I really wish I'd known about this auction and stuff. And it's like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'm actually glad that I don't know about more auctions because
Same. Yeah.
that could be dangerous. And it's funny, there was actually one that was going on live while I was at the museum yesterday, and I was almost gonna poke you, and then I was like, I'm not gonna poke her. Like it
Thank
would
you.
just be
Yes. Thank you
yeah.
for not.
Yes. So sometimes it's a little sad to see them after the fact, but then you're like, it's better. But anywho, I was scrolling through my Instagram today, and there's a whole bunch of other dealers online that I follow, and some of them had some very interesting things where I might, by the time I come across it, it might be sold by that point. But I was thinking, like, if they have some things coming up that they know about that are very unique. One dealer is out researching names on a quilt that she got recently. I think that's so
Oh.
cool. Um, wouldn't it be cool to maybe like have a show where it features, I don't know, 5 dealers or something, and just stuff they have or stuff they have coming up, and maybe they write a little extra something extra on there, and then maybe you guys get to see it before other people do, kind of a thing.
Yeah. That would be
Like a
fun.
fashion show.
A fashion show. Yes, a quilty fashion show. And
Yeah.
really some of the dealers that we've met and worked and you've worked with, they are very knowledgeable.
Mhm.
There's these professional dealers that like this is their life's work at this point. They're very different than say like your eBay dealers. Because it's a crapshoot on eBay. Sometimes you have legitimate people that are dealers, and this is how they sell, or they have a brick and mortar and they also sell this way. And then you have complete yahoos who, you know, are just out there.
They just found something off of the bins at Goodwill.
Yeah, either that, or they're the thrift store or the kind of lower level estate clean out, and they'll come across something and they'll be like, I don't know anything about this, and then you can get a good deal from a Yahoo. But yes, you can, because they often don't know what they're looking at, or they'll, they look at a thing and they Google it and they're like, oh, okay, this thing's worth, this much money, and here's what I think it is, or here's what somebody told me it was, and you're like,
Sometimes I will say, sometimes like quote a Yahoo can be really obnoxious, because
mm,
I was at a show. I know I've told Steph this story before, but I was at a show. There's a big show that happens around here the day after Thanksgiving, somewhere around Thanksgiving, and they call it the Thanksgiving Day show, whatever. Um, it's a good sized show. I think there's something like 75 vendors or something like that.
mm,
And there, last time I went, there are often quilts there. I have bought quilts there from multiple different people, and there's often sewing tools and things. There was a woman there that I've never seen before. I think it was a one and done for her, and she had a bunch of quilts. And she was like, I'm selling all these quilts because I bought an antique home, and I found all these quilts in the attic. So of course, a story like that, you're like, wow, that sounds so neat. And what pulled me into her booth is she did have some authentic antique quilts, some applique, things very recognizable from a distance. That's real.
mm-hmm.
And I'm starting to look, then she had some piles, and I start to look through the piles. And not everything in the piles was authentic. Not a problem, but I just said she's telling me about like all of these, they're handmade and I was like, so you see this quilt here? I was like, this is not what's considered an authentic quilt. This is a reproduction. I've actually seen this particular one
Yeah.
sold.
It's a
I bel
reproduction. It was made in China for sale at
Yeah.
JCPenney in the
And I'm pretty
1990s.
sure it was a 1990s repro because I remember seeing it in the catalog.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
she was like, "No, this is real." And it's funny, sometimes it's easy to make that argument if like someone's cut the tags off of them and you just can't really tell as well. I get it. Like I have been fooled. I understand. Like, but I flip it over and I'm like, "Do you see this tag?" It had the Arch Quilts tag on it. I'm like, "Do you see this? This tells you this." And she argued and argued. She had a whole stack of them. And I don't begrudge her selling them. Fine, sell them. But like at least don't try to pass it off as something
Hmm.
else. Like
Something that's
that's
not, yeah.
not. But then she
Yeah.
said, "Well, they've been authenticated by some auction person in like New Hampshire." She said some name, I don't remember who it was. But I was like, you're probably dealing with someone that just has a little knowledge about a lot of things
Hmm. And they're not a
rather
quilt.
than
Yeah. Not a quilt
and
appraiser. Yeah.
and they were probably doing it with pictures.
Hmm.
And if you didn't show them this tag,
Yeah. There's
you
no,
can be fooled
yeah.
online.
There's no way. Well, and Jen just said it. Some folks cannot be educated.
Yeah.
It's not worth
Yeah,
it.
and
Yeah.
honestly, like
Hmm.
she was so offended
Hmm.
and just wasn't getting it that I walked away from her and I actually there was a few things that I was going to buy from her. I ended up not buying anything because I'm just because she was like, "Well, no, I was dealing with a professional." And I'm like, "Well, I also deal. I also, volunteer at the Quilt Museum. Like I'm not I'm not fancy by any means, and I
Hmm.
definitely don't claim to know anything, but I don't know nothing."
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was one of those. That was a Yahoo that I wasn't willing to get a good deal from because I was just like, you got bad vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like Jen said, yes, sometimes you can absolutely get a good deal from a Yahoo who's like, I don't know what the hell I have. If I had time to research it, I'm sure it's worth a lot more money, but you know what? I don't have time and I want to get it off my hands. Yes, you can have it for
Mhm.
$25, you know? And I love to deal with those people. Those people are great. The people that are like, "Oh, I found this in my grandmother's furniture. I don't know what it is, but $10." Those are the people that I'm like, "Oh my God, please let me give you more money. Please ask for more money because I feel like I'm ripping you off if I don't give you what this is worth."
Well,
Um,
or you have the ones that are like, I found this, it looks old, $7,000.
there is, and I haven't looked lately to see if it's still out there, but there's this guy selling this quilt, and I want to say it was on Mercari. But it could have been eBay, and it's a really really cool quilt. It's like black with the cats that I think they look like something from the 30s or 40s, like a pattern, one of those newspaper pattern cats. But I don't think it's that old. I think, just from what I could tell in the pictures, I don't think it's that old. It's probably mid-century. They wanted so much money for this quilt. It was like $8,000 or something obscene like that. Maybe not that much, but it was definitely over 1,000. And I was like, that quilt is not worth that much money.
Hmm.
It is not. And it's, every time I see, what is it? OOAK. One of a kind. OOAK in rare. So rare. Lots of quilts are rare because there's only one of them like that. That's just the nature of, people make quilts. But, you know, there's a difference between, this was made by a person. There's not really another one exactly like it, but it is kind of also ubiquitous. Like that, you have to understand that, in terms of value. And but the long story short, what I think I was trying to get to here is that we do actually know some dealers that really know their stuff. And I'm trying to think, are any of them actually appraisers? I don't know that any of them are
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
There are some that are actually appraisers. Yeah.
Like
So
Julie Silver is an
okay.
appraiser.
Yeah. So they know what they're. Oh, well, Julie has been. I mean, She jokes. She calls herself Methuselah. She has been dealing quilts for a real long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not to give away Julie's age, but at least as long as I've been alive. You know, I'm not a spring chicken, but she knows so much. She also
No, you're not a spring chicken. You're just a spread eagle.
Oh my God. And on that note, I think it's time to go, folks. But yeah, what I was going to say though is she knows so much, and she's forgotten more quilts than I will probably ever see in my life. But I also see her asking questions and like looking for other people's advice. And I'm like, that is the mark of a true professional, a true like wise person, because no matter how much knowledge you have, you can't know it all. You can't have seen it all. And those are the people I trust, and those are the people I want to talk to. And can I necessarily afford much that Julie has to sell? No, because she picks up really expensive, nice things. But nonetheless, you know, people like her that I just love to talk to them, because, you know, they are an asset to our community, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that those are some things percolating.
Yeah.
In the
now,
ideas.
No promises about any of this.
Well, if you guys have other ideas, please don't hold them in.
Yeah, you know where to find us. You know where to find us.
And we do actually listen, because the whole auction reviews idea came from our friend Jen.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Well,
please be sure to share.
With that said, Druid's like, all right, let's go. Let's keep this moving.
Yeah, she's like, bye everybody, and close.
I've got another stream to moderate. So, well, I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. And yeah, oh, I'm so glad, Mod Art. I'm glad you were here. I know you lurk sometimes, but oh, thanks, Druid. You guys are the best. You make me so happy. You make my day every time. So you guys take care. Wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for your support. Jill and I couldn't do this without you. So yeah. Until next time. Mwah!
Bye, everybody.